dollars in. I'm sure with a bit of imagination you can work out exactly where that was hidden.
The SAS, however, prefer to come a bit more tooled up. Whether you're in country, behind enemy lines for months, or on the run for 6 hours, a survival kit is vital. Every member of the regiment personalizes their own, and each item in it is selected by the soldier himself.
This is my survival kit. Various cutting implements. A wire saw. This will cut through metal. It could also be used for other things as well. The most important thing is a good sharp knife. Water purification tablets. A heliograph for signaling helicopters or aircraft. A pair of tweezers for removing thorns. If you leave them in too long, then they're likely to turn poisonous. You may carry some local currency, some safety pins, a little sewing set. When you're on the run for a while, then your clothes start to deteriorate. A button compass, very important. A silk sketch map. This will be hidden in your body somewhere. If you go on the run, then you've got a map of the area.
But a soldier's most vital survival tool is his brain. He's got to think on his feet, especially if he's bumped or has contact with the enemy.
If you've been bumped by the enemy, you may want to throw in a deception plan. Go in the opposite direction from what the enemy expects. Try and hide your trail. But, in general, if you don't get bumped, you will head directly to your secondary RV position.
A switched-on soldier will have made a note of the surrounding countryside, navigational landmarks, rivers, and places to avoid like towns and farms. This is known as the mental map. Whatever an SAS trooper has gleaned about the locality, he is aware that the enemy will know more. At the scene of their attempted capture, the Hunter Force has finally arrived to witness the aftermath. It consists of expert trackers and guards. 4 sentries are on point duty to the rear and the front, so the trackers can get on with the job without fear of being attacked. They're looking for signs that indicate number, direction, and speed of evaders.
They're in your territory, they've got no transport, they're on foot.
John McAleese is a trained tracker. He understands the mindset of a Hunter Force.
A Hunter Force can jump ahead and just pick at the high ground. You've got time in your hands, you can sit down and think ahead. Try and think like them, what would you do? They carry full kit and the weapon. Realistically, they're only going to be doing maybe 4 or 5k an hour initially, and then they're going to go down to maybe, it might even be 1 kilometre an hour, depending on the terrain and also depending on their physical state. Plus, they are trying to avoid leaving sign, and they're also not sort of going in the basic straight line, which is giving away their direction to travel.
There are any number of high-tech systems that can help the tracker, but there are some basic signs to look out for. Top signs, disturbed or broken branches that indicate direction. Middle signs, again branches, but also things like splashes on dry rock. Bottom signs, footprint, bruised or broken undergrowth, discarded items. All these can indicate number, direction, and even time. But what do the SAS use to find their way when they're on the run?
In a survival situation, if you intend to move your position, then you have to know what direction to go. If you have no compass, then you can use the natural environment to assist you with this. This tree is tilting towards the south. Obviously in this northern hemisphere, most sunlight is on the south side, so the foliage and the tree will lean towards the southern side. It gives you a rough idea of where south is. Moss is another general indicator of direction. In the northern hemisphere, once again, there will be more moss and it will grow thicker on the southern side of the tree. You have to look around you at all the trees in the area. And if most of the foliage and the moss is growing on the one side or leaning towards the one side, then that will give you a rough indicator of what direction south is in the northern hemisphere.
Wind direction is another good indicator. Trees in exposed areas lean away from the prevailing wind. In Northern Europe, this comes from the southwest, meaning the trees point northeast.
Another method of finding your direction is by using the sun. You need a stick which is approximately 1 metre long. Stick it in the ground vertically so that it's casting a shadow. Where the end of the shadow falls, place a stone. As the sun moves around from east to west in the sky, the shadow will move. You better do it in the morning and then come back in the afternoon and recheck where the shadow is falling. Once you've located that, place another stone at the tip of the shadow. That now gives you an east-west line, and if you stand directly behind your stick, looking at the stones, you're facing north, and north, south, east, and west.
On the move, a simple analog watch can help find north. By pointing the hour hand at the sun, drawing a line between it and the 12, you have north. From that again you can work out where west and east are. After 2 days under the tropical sun of Sierra Leone, on the run from rebels, Phil Ashby had a new killer to contend with.
All I remember is we were all in and out of consciousness, and we were, to put it mildly, as thirsty as I think it's possible to be.
While dehydration took a physical toll, fatigue played tricks on his mind.
On one occasion I was convinced there was a 5th member in our party, but strangely it was a woman dressed in basically a big white sort of shawl. And I could see this person very clearly, and I kept on saying, look, can nobody else see this person who's standing by us?
The average person can survive almost 2 weeks without food, but even in a mild climate, they won't last long without water. A body only has to lose 15% of its fluid before it starts to give up. The stages of dehydration begin with the obvious. But thirst soon leads to a loss of appetite. As you stew in your own juice, you lose the ability to think or even walk straight. Eventually, there's collapse and death. In a desperate gamble, Ashby's team drank the 1 litre of water they each had and pushed on to the nearest river. But when they got there, the river was dry.
I remember hearing the noise of frogs croaking, and it occurred to me that where there were frogs, there surely had to be water. We found some muddy pools, the sort of water that at the end of the dry season even the local animals weren't drinking. We used 5 times the normal dose of water purification tablets and started drinking.
When picking a place to get your water, you've got to be very careful of what you're doing. There's places you must avoid at all times. Areas of habitation. Obviously, if there's people living upstream, then they may be using the river as a sewage disposal area. Coniferous woods. Any water running through coniferous woods may be contaminated with chemicals, which is used on the trees. Cultivated areas. Obviously, once again, water in the cultivated areas may be polluted with chemicals, which is used on the land. Stagnant areas. There's no wildlife around, no greenery, no animal life in the water, then there's a good chance that the water is poisonous. What you're looking for is a nice fast-moving stream, nice clean water, good to drink.
As well as being a good source of drinking water, a river is a good landmark to navigate by, and it will cover your scent if the enemy have tracker dogs. In a typical evasion, Eddie and Pete would try to move at night and rest up during the day. As first light approaches, they'll be thinking about finding somewhere to lie up and maybe getting something to eat.